Hello, wonderful person. This is Chris for the Informed Stoner, and this is your Monday midday news report. Today's midday news report comes from the Daily Mail. EPA orders Norfolk Southern to pause cleanup on East Palestine toxic train derailment. Deposits 102,000 gallons of liquid waste and 4,500 cubic yards of solid waste still on site. Wow, that's crazy. Federal environmental authorities have ordered a temporary halt in the shipment of contaminated waste from the site of a fiery train derailment earlier this month in eastern Ohio near the Pennsylvania state line. Region 5 Administration Deborah Shore of the Environmental Protection Agency said Saturday the agency ordered Norfolk Southern to pause shipments for the site of the February 3rd derailment in East Palestine, but vowed that the removal of the material would resume very, very soon. It's hard to believe that it's already been almost a month since that has happened. Time goes too fast. Everyone wants this contamination gone from the community. They don't want the worry, they don't want the smell, and we owe it to the people of East Palestine to move out of the community as quickly as possible, Shore said. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want it around either. Until Friday, Shore said the rail company had been solely responsible for the disposal of the waste and supplied Ohio environmental officials with a list of selected and utilized disposal sites. I'm sure that these are some kind of disposal sites as like processing plants or something to break it down or hopefully, do it safely and not just dumping it someplace. But these days, I don't know what's what. Who knows? Going forward, disposal plans include locations and transportation routes for the contaminated waste will be subject to EPA review and approval, she said. Well, I would hope the Environmental Protection Agency would have review and approval. EPA will ensure that all waste is disposed of in a safe and lawful manner. I hope so. At EPA certified facilities to prevent further releases of hazardous substances and impacts to the communities. Officials had heard concerns from the residents and others in a number of states and were reviewing the transport of some of the waste along over long distances and finding the appropriate permitted and certified states to take the waste. The Ohio's governor said Saturday night that 20 truckloads, approximately 280 tons, of hazardous solid waste hauled away. 280 tons of solid hazardous waste. And they told these people that everything's cool, just go home. Drink the water, it's fine. No big deal. Shh. 15 truckloads of contaminated soil was disposed of at Michigan Hazardous Waste Treatment and Disposal Facility, with 5 truckloads had been returned to East Palestine. Liquid waste already trucked out of East Palestine would be disposed of at a licensed hazardous waste treatment and disposal facility in Texas. Wow, that stuff's going all the way from Ohio to Texas. I hope it doesn't spill out someplace else. But that facility would not accept more liquid waste, the Ohio governor's office said. Currently, about 102,000 gallons of liquid waste and 4,500 cubic yards of solid waste remain in storage on the site in East Palestine, not including the 5 truckloads returned to the village, the governor's office said. Additional solid and liquid waste are being generated as the cleanup progresses. How much of this waste are they going to get? I mean, that's insane. It's craziness. No one was injured when 38 Norfolk Southern derailed in a fiery, mangled mess on the outskirts of town, but as fears grew about the potential explosion due to the hazardous chemicals in all 5 of the rail cars, officials evacuated the area. They later opted to release and burn the toxic vinyl chloride from the tanker cars, sending flumes and black smoke billowing into the sky again. Shore said the EPA was not involved in the decision to do the controlled burn, but she called it was a well-founded decision by local and state officials based on the information they had at the time to deal with highly explosive toxic chemicals. Federal and state officials had repeatedly said it's safe to evacuated residents to return to the safe area. Pardon me. And the air testing in the town and inside hundreds of homes hasn't detected any concerning levels of contaminants from the fires or burned chemicals. The state says the local municipal drinking water system is safe and the bottled water is available while testing is conducted for those with private wells. Well, I mean, it's nice that they're giving them bottled water while they do the testing and everything, because don't want them drinking out of the wells if they're contaminated or showering with them or anything else. Despite those assurances and the bevy of news conferences and visits from politicians, many residents still express a sense of mistrust or have lingering questions about how they have been exposed to and how it will impact the future of their families and their communities. On Friday, President Joe Biden directed federal agencies to get door-to-door in East Palestine, Ohio, and check on families affected by the toxic train derailment. Under Biden's order, teams from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, Environmental Protection Agency, and Federal Emergency Management Agency, a lot of agencies, will visit homes. Workers will ask how residents are doing, see what they need, and connect with them and appropriate resources from the government and nonprofit organizations, the White House said. The walk teams are modeled on similar teams following hurricanes and other natural disasters. Biden directed employees to get to as many homes as possible by Monday. Officials said that the immediate goal was to visit at least 400. The president said he currently has no plans to personally visit Ohio. Biden on Friday rejected the notion that his administration hasn't been present in providing assistance in the bizarre exchange as he left the White House to spend the weekend at his Delaware home. Not going to comment on that. We were there 2 hours after the train went down. 2 hours, Biden said, at the White House. I've spoken with every single major figure in both Pennsylvania and in Ohio. And so the idea that we're not engaged is simply not there. The Democrats, including blundering Transport Secretary Pete Buttigieg, have been accused of initially playing the disaster down. They were embarrassed into taking it more seriously after a well-publicized visit from the site by former President Donald Trump earlier this week. Timeline given out by the White House Friday said that DOT provided intel incident notification to members of the Ohio congressional delegation and relevant committees on Saturday, February 4th, less than a day after the derailment. The same day, the EPA deployed real-time air monitoring instruments in 12 locations surrounding the wreck site and in the neighboring communities, the White House said. Meanwhile, the controversy spread far beyond the little Ohio town. Officials in Texas and Michigan expressed concerns about contaminated wastewater and soil being transported to their states for disposal. Biden's order came as House Republicans opened an investigation into the February 3rd derailment, blaming Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg for what they contend was a delayed response of the fiery wreck. Focus on the DOT came even through the EPA took charge of the federal response. This week, it ordered Norfolk Southern Railway to pay for the cleanup of the chemical release. Rep. James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, became the latest lawmaker to jump into what has become a political proxy war as party lays into the other after the derailment and the chemical leak that led to the evacuation of the small Ohio community. Despite the U.S. Department of Transportation's responsibility to ensure safe and reliable transport in the United States, you ignored the catastrophe for over a week, the Kentucky Republican said in a letter to Buttigieg. The American people deserve answers as to what caused the derailment, and DOT needs to provide an explanation for its leadership's apathy in the face of this emergency, the letter went on. Meanwhile, Buttigieg was hit back at ex-President Donald Trump, who visited the site this week. Buttigieg told reporters that the former president and current Republican president candidate felt strongly about increased rail safety efforts. One thing he could do is express support for reversing the deregulation that happened on his watch. Whoa, okay. Deregulation may have happened, that may be very true. How long have they been in office and they have not reversed that deregulation with all of the countless executive orders and everything else that went out? I mean, I'm just saying that could have been something. I'm not blaming them, of course. I'm just saying that, it could have been done. On Friday, Buttigieg chided Comer for referring in his letters to the DOT's National Transportation Safety Board, saying he was alarmed to learn the committee chairman thinks that the NTSB is part of the department. The NTSB is independent and with good reason. So, of course, we will fully review this and respond appropriately. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre exhorted political stunts we're seeing on the other side. A preliminary report released Thursday by the National Transportation Safety Board stated that the crew operating the Norfolk Southern freight train did not get much warning before dozens of cars went off the track, and there was no indication that crew members did anything wrong. Well, something had to have happened, and I'm sure they know what happened. They're just not telling us quite yet that I know of. Republicans are framing the incident as moral failing at the hands of the Biden administration, noting Buttigieg's failure to visit the site until nearly 3 weeks after that wreck. Democrats point to rollbacks from former President Donald Trump made during his term that weakened the rail environmental regulations. EPA administration Michael Reagan visited the site last week and again on Tuesday. Well, it's still an all-around scary story, and I feel horrible for the residents of Palestine because they didn't ask for any of this. They were just innocent people living there, and this happened. I'm not saying that it necessarily was anybody's fault. We don't know why or what happened, but it may be their fault. Maybe they were negligent on repairs. Maybe, who knows? I mean, there's a list of things that could have happened. But why don't you guys, leave some comments below, drop a like and subscribe if you would be so kind. It would really help us out. And today, have a great afternoon. This has been your midday Monday news report.